Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
And you are indeed very welcome along to Friday Night Racing. It's Ger Gilroy and Johnny Ward with you every Friday afternoon on all the Off the Ball social channels, and the best place these days to get us is on the OTB Sports app. Just search OTB Sports in the App Store. You can download it there and you can access all of our racing content. There's a full list of all of our racing stories and podcasts and videos that we stick up there as well. And then every Friday evening we're on the radio on Off the Ball on News Talk. Friday Night Racing is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Check out the Twitter account at HRI Racing or the hashtag every racing moment. Visit hri.ie for more details as well. Our guest this week is Sean Flanagan. Sean, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
Welcome back to the show. How you doing?
Yeah, good. We're getting their way now. Hopefully the next couple of days we should be back doing a bit more.
You broke a sternum, is that right?
Yeah, literally right here, just where the two collarbones meet your sternum. I broke it in two places, yeah.
I remember a man saying that the closest men could get to childbirth was dislocated shoulder or broken collarbone in terms of pain. What was the pain level of the broken sternum?
Initially, it was just like being badly winded, I suppose. Again, I got back to the medical room. I didn't think it was too bad. I thought, I'm okay. There's nothing broken. Then could feel a bit of swelling, and obviously when you something like that area, there shouldn't be swelling. So I kind of had a suspicion that it's broken, but to the hospital, X-rayed, still fine. Told me it was broken two places. Was very surprised. Was fine the next day, and then the day after, it was like someone hit me with a mallet. I was very sore for about a week, and then gradually improved from there.
And are you pretty immobile for the first couple of weeks as they try and get everything to knit back together?
Yeah, they just basically said do absolutely nothing if you can manage it at all for a week. So I was happy enough with that. Sat down and did nothing for a week. And and I've got back mobile. I'm fine now. I'm doing normal things away, back riding out this morning, and hopefully back riding on Wednesday, all going according to plan.
So how long ago did it actually happen?
About 3 weeks.
Wow, that's pretty quick.
Today.
We were just saying before we came on air that of all of the times of the year, and obviously you never want to be injured, but the national hunt season isn't in its full flush at the moment, so this wasn't the worst time.
No, look, obviously I've missed Galway, which is disappointing that I've missed the winner, and that's obviously disappointing. But if you take Galway out of the summer, then as you said, it's not the worst time in the world to be out. Like last year, I got a concussion in Downpatrick and ended up missing Noel's kind of youngsters that had been nice bumper horses running their maiden hurdles and novice chases, and I'd missed only 4 or 5 winners probably, but it was really wrong ones to miss,
Yeah, because you build a relationship with them and then you know over the rest of the season how they're going to perform or not perform in some cases.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Look, I've obviously been lucky enough to be able to get back on the likes of those horses afterwards, but it's not simple to be looking at a horses after winning 2 bumpers, going running the maiden hurdle, only 4 to 6 in your ear, scratching your head.
It was. I suppose, Sean, the frustrating thing was you'd 3 months of doing, sweet FA, and then this happens. Was that mentally a bit frustrating because you must have been really itching to get back?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Obviously, it's probably even more frustrating the fact that I'd gone to Naas a month before, probably 5 weeks before the lockdown. I shattered my jaw and fractured my skull, and I got back in 4 weeks to go to Cheltenham, and I rode the Sunday in Ireland before Cheltenham, went to Cheltenham, a couple of rides at Cheltenham, back, and I rode once, and then I was serving a suspension that I got, and then I was gone again for 3 months, and now back for 3 weeks and gone again. But look, that's just the joys of it. You just have to take it and go again.
You say it very matter-of-factly, like fracturing a skull and all that. We David Russell on last week who was sort of downplaying the danger of it, but do you ever sit back, and you've had probably more time than you'd like over the last few months to sit back, do you ever sit back and reflect on just the toll it does take in your body and how brave you jockeys are to be going through it?
Probably not really. No, I've never really thought about that at all. I think get back on as quick as possible is the realistic thing. Like a broken sternum, you'd say to some people and they think, oh, bloody hell. To me, a broken sternum was sore for 4 or 5 days, and I could probably, if I'd had a doctor that would let me back riding, I'd probably been fit enough to go back riding You
needed a Dr. Nick Riviera to say. How has it been for you career-wise in terms of injuries? And would you say, out of 10, where have you been luck-wise? 1 being very unlucky, 10 being fairly lucky.
If you were to ask me that question a year and a half ago, I would have said I was a 1, very lucky all the way. And then I broke my leg in Tremor and got a concussion in Downpatrick, broke my jaw in Naas and broke my sternum. And that's all in the space of probably a year and a bit. So in the last while I've been unlucky, but hopefully, touch wood, that might be the end of it. We might get a good run of it for a long time more, you know.
Does it affect your bottle at all when you get these catalogue of injuries? Because obviously that's something I suppose you'd be worried about as you get older.
It never affected me anyway, and I don't really think, like, I get a fall and I'm like, fucking hell, like that thing the other day fell on the flat, like, they broke my sternum, like, it was galloping along, and it could literally happen to anybody. And I just never thought about it. I suppose I put myself into the crack where I was just a bit stupid and numb, I suppose, to take that on board. I just keep going, and sure, if it happens, it happens, and maybe the day will come, I don't know, but I hope it doesn't come for a while yet. Yeah.
And it's kind of offered, other jockeys a chance, and, looking at Owen Walsh, he's been riding really well. He'd a winner as well last night. He's probably a jockey going places for the stable when he works through his claim.
Yeah, absolutely. Owen's a good lad, dedicated to the cause, and he's 1 winner less than his £7 claim. I'm sure it won't be long going. He's attached obviously to Noel with plenty of horses there, and look at he's going to have a good career, plenty to learn, the same as anyone does. But that's the way you learn. He's going through your claim, and he's an intelligent fella, so he'll be fine because he takes everything on board,
It's funny because, like, I remember meeting you when you were much, much younger and involved in a horse that you rode for us, obviously. Life goes by fairly quickly. All of a sudden, you're one of the senior guys in the weighing room. Do you feel a responsibility to impart your knowledge and experience into the likes of Owen and the young kids coming up? Even though I'd say, from my knowledge of you, you're probably struggling to realise that we're all getting older as it is anyway.
It's funny, we had this conversation in Cork today. I broke my sternum. We're all sat down in the big room. We're all well separated now, to be fair. And someone said I was senior jockey and I was playing this down. I said, no way. Mark Walsh is there, and Walsh is a bit older than me. But then when you kind of sit down and look around and say, bloody hell, I don't feel senior. Like, and I'd half be, without pushing it there, you'd be half be a little bit embarrassed if someone came looking at advice. Not embarrassed, but like you're kind of thinking, this is, you hardly want much advice off me. But yeah, look, I was always quite good to anyone that come looking for anything or advice or anything like that. Now, whether it be much help or not, I don't know. But I give him a peace of mind anyways, I'd say.
Because we were talking about this last week about there was a couple of different aspects to it. One is the responsibility that you might feel to pass knowledge on, but the other is that actually you're all in competition with each other, and if there are spares going, you're all like actually trying to get on the best available horse whenever there's a horse available. Now, I don't know if you're precluded from riding for other trainers. I suspect you probably aren't. Would that be fair enough that you can actually ride other horses if No Me doesn't have something in the race? So you are kind of in competition with them.
Absolutely, yeah. It is, like, to be fair, especially during the summer, I'd ride out every day in more or less in a different yard, and I like doing that because you get around, you get to see different things and different people and different horses, and it opens the door for you to ride a lot more horses that aren't completely spare, like generally if you get a ride at 11:30, it's probably because a lot of lads don't want to ride it, or like, it's not going to, it's not like red hot favourite teed up, like all the horses that are kind of have good chances and have things like that, everything is teed up before the declarations are done. So if you're in the yards, in the better yards right now, to have the opportunity of getting onto these nicer type of horses. But look, I've got spares that have been good ones, like won the Latouche Cup on Ballybroker Bridge for Peter Marr. Like, that was a complete spare, and I actually ran from the physio room around to the front of the away room at Punchestown to catch Peter Marr before anyone else did, because I just found out that JJ had gotten hurt,
Yeah, you have to take your opportunities. I'm just reflecting on your career. I'm speculating here from looking at the figures that you went to the States roughly sort of 2013, would it have been?
That's right, yeah.
Because I remember talking to you at that time, so you'd started off with, you were sort of averaging around about 20 winners a season coming to the end of the first decade of this century. And what was it like then, Sean? You write out your claim and, you know, say if we go back 10 years, you're talking Geraghty, Walsh, Russell and Carberry are at their peak, and other jockeys as well. So you enter a tough kind of landscape and you're probably faced with a tough choice. Your story at that stage would have been familiar with so many other jockeys who've progressed from a very good start, but find that progression to senior level then is tough.
Yeah, like, look, you know, for me, I kind of, at the time, I was with Dusty, obviously when I was riding all those winners, and as I needed the support out of my claim through Dusty, everything kind of fell apart with him as well.
Dusty Sheehy, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm kind of left with having kind of built a connection with him, and obviously Liz Doyle. Liz wouldn't have had many numbers at the time, but the connection that I'd built up with him, like Owen Walsh is a perfect example. He's a great connection with Noel, and now as he goes through his claim, Noel will obviously support him because that's just generally the way it works. But I had that with Eamon, and as I needed his support, he hadn't got the horses and firepower to support me anymore. So I'm left kind of in no man's land without the connections that was needed to support myself. And I was blaming that for a long time. And then, obviously, after a while, when you can't get yourself back going, you start blaming yourself a little bit. Like, so I just said, well, look, I've obviously gone through my claim. Happy days. Was a massive achievement by any rider to ride out their claim. And then I said, it's just obviously not good enough to make the next step. And I call myself quite realistic on things at times. Like, I'd say, well, so look at it. There's no point in sitting back and crying about it. Like, I'm obviously not good enough to make the next step. And the next thing then for myself was to either say, right, well, do I go somewhere else and try and make inroads into it there? Do I give up and just try something else because I'm obviously not good enough at this without my £7 claim or 5 or 3 or whatever it was? And I quickly enough realised that I probably wasn't good at much else either, so I just had to stick it out and see what happened.
So you weren't right though. You obviously are good enough. So what changed? How did you go from? Was it just self-doubt? Was that the actual main barrier to you?
No, I just hadn't got the horses right. If you gave me a good enough horse on the day to ride, I was good enough to win on it. But
did you believe that at the time? Like, so when you're saying,
not at all, no.
Right. So the self-doubt was definitely a real thing as well.
And I suppose as well, Sean, at that time you're averaging 3, 4, 5% really. So 95% of your mounts are losing. 98%, 2 out of 3 seasons are on the turn of the century. And if you're riding a lot of losers, you start feeling maybe like a bit of a loser yourself, I suppose.
Sure, this is the same as a yard of horses. If they all start winning, they all start running well generally. And obviously it's a vein of form thing with horses too. But yeah, absolutely. And look, it's combined a lot of things, you know. You start riding better yourself, but then things start happening easier for you when your confidence is up as well, you know.
I always find that interesting with jockeys, that it's hard to make the step up from minor to senior, and you know, I think a lot of young men in the world actually struggle to make the adjustment from their teens to being a fully grown adult. But as a jockey, you enter a really, really competitive environment. The rides aren't necessarily there, and I have to give you a lot of praise because you said, you know, I'm going to keep going at this and I'm going to try America.
Yeah, well, look at this day. I tried England first, and England is a place I loved, actually, the whole setup and the way that was all run and everything like that. But as bad as I was going here, I was going twice as bad over there, which is understandable. Like, it's very hard for anyone to walk into a yard with no claim and no real reason as to why that trainer should give you a ride other than the fact that you were in there riding out. But grand, you're in there riding out, but you go into the yard in the morning, no matter whether it was 50 horse in the yard or 250 horse in the yard, and there would be 20 other jockeys in right now, and you just take your place at the back of there, and if you're good enough to sit for long enough, you probably will get a chance. But like, it'd be a long time just sitting about, you know. Is
there anything you can do riding out to show that you're a brilliant horseman, or is it like, if you know, you're not supposed to, like, there's very few, maybe at certain stages during a training, the horse will be being asked to gallop and you'll be asked to give some information back. What can you do to stand out in that environment?
There's not a lot you can do. The best thing you can do is sit down and keep your head down and ride your own horse every day that you're riding out. Like, you know, you can give advice, but you're kind of leaving yourself open a little bit then as well if you give the wrong advice. Not necessarily. Like, you can ride a horse and work at home and you can absolutely tear the sand off the gallop and gallop out through the hedge at the top of the gallop, and you tell him, here, this horse will go and win whoever you want him to go and win, and he mightn't be like that at the racecourse at all. So you have, like, sometimes the less said the better, and you leave yourself open for less criticism, I suppose, at the back of all that. You know, all you can do is ride to the best of your ability and tell them what you think to an extent.
The point that Johnny made earlier about the quality of jockeys who were there at that time, they were one of the other real blocks on young jockeys coming through. I'm not sure in the year 2000 or 2001 did everybody realise that generation was a golden generation and that they would actually be getting all the best horses and all the best rides in all the big races for the best part of the next 20 years. I don't know what that must have been like for you. Did you just think, well, I mean, at some point I'm going to get my opportunity here?
Yes, at the time, it's a bit of a mixed emotion in the sense that you're probably very, very privileged to ride with them. And day to day, like, the seasons are very, very long. Like, you know, you sit down and it's Christmas time and you say, bloody hell, it's going to be such a long, long way to Christmas next year. And I suppose if you weren't riding, Christmas comes around very quick. But when you're riding every single day, it makes a year very, very long. And a year being long, and then you're thinking, sure, I suppose at the time maybe Ruby would have been 30 odd, and you're thinking, sure, he's only a young man. Like, you know, there's loads of years left in him. I'll be nearly broke up and finished before he is. And you just don't know what way it's going to turn, you know. And those lads were fully entitled to get all the rides on all them horses because they were the best of the era, like, you know.
So it was a little bit intimidating, I suspect, especially when you were just, say, when you're riding at your claim and you're thinking, oh, this is great, I've ridden at my claim, I'm here we go. It must have been a little bit intimidating to look up and go, these guys are actually, like, crossing over into the national sports fans' consciousness. That's how famous and that's how good they are.
Yeah, it's a funny game. Like, intimidating, probably not the right word for it. Yeah, like, you're conscious of what they were and who they were and their ability, but at the same time, they wouldn't intimidate you out of a gap if
sure.
you or them.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of a way?
Yeah, I guess I'm talking almost in the business sense that, like, there's 80% of the winners gone this year with 5-6 jockeys maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a bit to do with jobs as well. Like, I suppose if you're looking at statistics, how many winners does Willie and Gordon and Noel, you know, train per year? I'd say it's a high number as well, I would imagine.
Also, as well as that, I know, like, we since Dr. Adrian McGoldrick was involved in the IHRB, there was a lot of more analysis maybe of the mental side of the game, but I don't know. Could you relate to other jockeys? Did you talk to other jockeys at that time? Because, you know, the percentage of the pie that is left to the rest, that isn't taken by those jockeys that we mentioned and the young lads coming up. There are a million jockeys who've been good apprentices. Like, it must be mentally tough to be in that position, to think there isn't a guaranteed out from this, and I really have to work hard, and even that might not be good enough in the end.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I didn't. I wouldn't go as far as to say I was depressed, and I've said it a couple of times before. I think it was just a bit numb to get depressed. I just put my head down and kept driving on. And that's just me. I didn't speak to anyone about it, but now I ride, like, I'm very, very lucky. You know, I kind of have loads of smallish trainers that support me. Obviously, I have Noel as well, and I can come and go. And they're very good to let me off some horses and get back on them, you know, and I have a very good agent is in Rory, and we kind of work it that way between us. And, like,
Rory
I've ridden 11, yeah, Rory Tierney, very good, and we work well together. And, like, I've had a spectacular start to the season where I've ridden 11 winners in 3.5 weeks.
17% strike rate.
That's not bad.
Yeah, you know, it's unreal. And I couldn't believe when I sat down and got the first day after I got hurt, and I was looking at different things, and I seen 11 winners and whatever amount of rides, and then I couldn't believe that I'd done that in 3.5 weeks. It felt like way, way longer, you know. And then you look down to the board, and like there's so many riders there that have only had 3 or 4 rides, and it's only then you really realise how far you've come. Do you know, that kind of way? And those lads are there, and some of them are going to be in the same position I'm in a couple of years' time, please God.
How much of it is a positive mentality? Because, like, the footballers that go over as kids to the Premier League club or the Championship club or whatever it is, and probably since they were 8 or 9 years of age, they've essentially been the best player on each team they've been on. They go over to England, there's a big fuss made out of them, and then it doesn't work out, and they come back to Ireland and they're emotionally on the scrap heap. So like I would see young jockeys, and you just get the sense from them that the glass is half empty a lot of the time, because they're just struggling to deal with that. And I suppose, is it a case of I actually should be very positive here, because I've achieved a lot. I've realised my dream so far. I'm riding horses every day. I actually have a very good life. And if I keep my head down, it will improve.
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. But I can understand their angle as well. Like, horse racing is the best sport in the world to bring you from hero to zero.
Yeah.
Like Jack Hendy, perfect example, won the Irish Gold Cup, hasn't ridden since the race afterwards. And that's, 8 months ago? More than 8 months ago. So, like, people are very conscious not to let themselves get too far ahead. Like, it's a brilliant game. Like, in the midst of when I was going really, really bad, I would genuinely, and it's funny the way the mind works, I would come home from the races after riding a winner, which was probably only 3 times a year, more annoyed than if I didn't.
Why?
Because I know that I got the buzz of riding a winner, and I probably wouldn't do it again for another couple of months.
Yeah, because if you're averaging a winner every 4 months, it's not much food.
Yeah, that's it, and that was the realistic outlook I had. It was like, bloody, that was great.
So how important is your girlfriend then, your partner, because it's not talked about enough. Maybe Francis Crowley and Pat Smullen, brought it more to the fore, because they've spoken about the challenges of being the partner of a jockey, but like, you got to put up with a lot as well.
It's unreal. I'm absolutely blessed to have Lauren. We're meant to get married in June, but that's we put it back a year. So I'm blessed with two lovely kids, but it's crucial. Lauren has no interest. Well, she has interest now, obviously, but she had no background in horse racing or anything at all like that. And you come in, and it's an out. You come home, you talk about completely different things. Obviously, now we have kids. You talk about what they've done or what they've broken. What they've broke or wrecked during the day. And that, but for me, it's crucial. You come home, you spend time with them, you go away, and you do different things, and it's not all horse all day, and then come home and what about this and what about that. And I think it's crucial, and I think it takes a very special woman to listen to a jockey and put up with what they do. You leave in the morning at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whatever it may be. You're only waiting on a phone call to say, well, you might have to pick me up from whatever hospital or whatever. It's a completely different outlook that they have. That's
the thing, Ger, as well, that you don't even think about that. Like, Paul O'Garrity was obviously extolled by Barry when he was on. He spoke about like how important she'd been, but every race is a potential death as well, or a potential paralysis. It's really, really dangerous. And every time there's a fall, the first thing the commentator is going to do is look away from the main field and see that Sean Flanagan has gotten up okay, and then see that the horse has gotten up okay. That's the first thing that he or she is going to be worried about commentating on the race. And the partner in the stand who's watching, or invariably watching at home, it's like, well, you don't really even think about that. Like, and you've lads like who see fallers every day, they back horses, this and that, but like that mental side of it, and also the fact that Sean Flanagan is probably in a better mood when he's riding 50 winners than he is when he's riding 2, and you have to go with the ups and downs of that and stick with it thick and thin. Yeah, they've written good poetry about that. They also serve who only sit and wait. Sean, we had, just to round this out actually, because it's a nice little link to it, last week we were asking about the attitude, and it kind of ties back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier on, but the best jockeys become very single-minded as well, and the quote last week I think was, I wasn't a very nice person to be around. How do you get that balance right between somebody who is single-minded, focused on winners, and trying also then to be a good father and a good husband?
Well, I suppose your wife or your partner will whip you into shape too. Like Lauren wouldn't be long but tell me if I was a little bit out of line, say I should be doing more here, I should be more there, and I think you need that, because it is a very self-centered game, and it's, you try to do as much as you can outside of it. Like, I try to get away and do other things outside of racing as much as I can, and sometimes it's obviously it's not with them, and then you're not spending any time at home, and then doing something outside of home. It's not exactly ideal. But I think, yeah, they obviously know. Like Lauren would know if I'm having a bad time and things are annoying me. She would be the one to tell me to go off with one of the lads there and go and do something, get yourself sorted, and don't be annoying me, kind of a thing. and that's that's the difference, that's exactly what you need.
I think there's a slight difference with him though, where like if it were you or I, it'd be like maybe you go for a pint, you go for a walk, whereas Sean can actually go and hop in a plane and fly.
Well, I was going to say, it's a nice, safe hobby you've got for yourself in your spare time.
Yeah. So like, yeah, when you had your first day, you're like, I'm a jockey. Oh, by the way, also I'm a pilot.
Yeah. Just drop it in there. Fly to wherever you want to go.
What's that like as a means of switching off, literally, and obviously switching on? But that must be, I don't know, it must be pretty amazing.
It is. It's. I was only speaking to someone about it yesterday. It's. If you're in bad form or whatever, that you go down to the airfield, you hop in the plane, and you're not 20 foot off the ground, and you don't care about that noise anymore. So you're just up and away, and you can go where you want. It's an amazing sense of freedom. Like last week, I was at home here, and Lauren and the kids were gone away for the day, so I went down, hopped in the plane, and went down to Sligo for a cup of tea, and came back like 50 minutes down, 50 minutes back.
How does that work for somebody who doesn't understand anything about that? Do you like, where do you know that you can safely land? How is it all choreographed in terms of not crashing into another plane? And is it just as easy as you make it sound?
Well, it's easy as I make it sound now because I know how to do it. But yeah, look at it. You book your plane, go down. You file a flight plan, it's called. So you have to go onto the IAA website, file your flight plan, and that basically lets them know that you're coming. You have to ring Sligo Airport to tell them you're coming as well. So when you take off, like I am on the radio to Dublin Tower or Shannon, the same as a commercial Ryanair flight, and they just keep you all apart and send you on your way wherever you need to go.
It's incredible, really, isn't it?
Have you met Jim Gavin?
Not yet.
That would be an interesting conversation between the two of you. It's just different sports careers, but fairly similar. He's obviously essentially involved with the IAA.
Yeah. I was actually speaking to a guy yesterday who's involved when I was down flying in Navan, and he was saying the same thing. But I think he does go out there. So his name was mentioned only yesterday, actually, funnily enough. So it is brilliant.
Every jockey who's on, we go on. So are you going to be a trainer when you finish up? Are you going to get involved in breeding? You're going to become a full-time pilot. Is that your retirement plan?
That's the plan, yeah. Yeah, that's the plan. So I just done a few more bits yesterday and building towards it. So, yeah, I need to do my CPL exams now, ATPL and CPL exams, and then that'll start the ball rolling on that.
It's like, Michael, I've written loads of winners for you. Can I now become a Ryanair pilot?
Yeah, any chance of a job. At least I can ask him for this job and he won't tell me no, maybe.
Well, the only thing with O'Leary is, well, like you could be in there and like he'd recognise you straight away and he would not give a toss. He's like, I'm going to give this to the best man. I don't care that you've written 100 grade ones for me. It doesn't matter,
Well, that's the difference, though. He's a businessman. He's dead right too. If why pay me something when you could pay someone else that's better do the same thing?
What's the comparison between jumping a fence on a really good 2 mile chaser and flying at the top speed you'll go?
Flying is very good and it's a great experience, but flying will never, for me anyway, will never tick the boxes of absolutely winging down to a fence on something that's good.
I'm glad to hear that, by the way. I'm really glad to hear that. That's like, especially if you have a future as a commercial pilot. I'm glad to hear that there won't be any winging down.
Yeah. I might think it's great fun if there was a crowd of passengers in the back that just mightn't enjoy it as much.
In terms of that career, are you worried about where like the airline kind of scene is going from out of COVID and I suppose with climate change and all that? Is that something that you think about?
Yeah, well, look, obviously at the minute I wouldn't like to be coming out of my CPL exams now and finish riding and starting to look for a job. It'd be the worst time in the world. But everyone needs to travel, and I think there will always be air travel, and it will always be a very, very big thing. So whether they adapt it to make it more economically friendly, I don't know, but I think they will always need pilots, I know.
Sean, you're going to be back in time for Listowel, which is effectively the proper kick-off for the new National Hunt season. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to see Paddy Kenny on Tuesday morning, so I'm going to be planning to ride on Wednesday. So.
Well, that's class. Best of luck with it.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the return from injury. And we'll talk to you again real soon, Sean. Thanks
Best of luck, Sean.
Thanks very much for everything, lads. Cheers.
It's Sean Flanagan there giving us some thoughts on Friday night racing. Friday night racing obviously brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Time for us to turn our attention to this week's bet. How did we get on last week, Johnny?
It seems a long time ago.
You can. I'll look it up there, and while I tell everybody about this, Naas Racecourse are looking for 20 lockdown heroes who will be assigned a horse in the Irish EBF Ballyhane Stakes, which takes place at Naas on Sunday, the 23rd of August. It's the richest two-year-old race to be run in Ireland this year, 320 grand. It's the Irish EBF Ballyhane Stakes. Is it Ballyhane or Ballyhane?
Ballyhane, yeah.
Ballyhane, yeah. We all know a lockdown hero. Is it your neighbour who went above and beyond while you or people you know were cocooning? Was it your GP, your community volunteers, your local shopkeeper, for example? To nominate your lockdown hero, go to naasracecourse.com and include a brief description of their heroic work before next Wednesday, the 19th of August. The 20 lockdown heroes will be announced on Friday Night Racing, August 21st.
That's a nice idea. It immediately brings to mind I think he was an ex-army veteran in the UK who had this really novel idea of doing like a really long walk in his garden during lockdown, and had a nominal little kind of amount that he had an ambition to raise, and went like 1 million times over that or whatever.
I think he raised like 19 million. Was that the figure? It was.
He may have been knighted even since, or gotten an OBE or something like that. But he, so if you can live up to that.
So it says here, I'm just going to read this. Not even Ger's decision to bet each way could bring success to the Tote Irish Injured Jockeys Fund last weekend, as Johnny's pick, Strongbow, was a non-runner.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why, I'm not sure why that was a non-runner. That was in the last race at Curra.
Tote have donated €100 to the fund, instead bringing the total to €1,990. Every time we don't bet, we win.
Got to tip a non-runner then. It's been mad. Like, I was racing yesterday in Tremor, and being honest, was supposed to be there again today, and you have to, the protocols are so strict that you have to apply for the ability to get in, and basically a health screening every day.
Yeah. You couldn't follow the rules, basically. You couldn't read the very simple rules that we've been talking about on this week
It's happened to better people than me, but like, given that I've only actually tried to get into 2 race meetings and I failed in half of those, it's quite. But I was there yesterday. It's an interesting experience, and the atmosphere is better than you think, because I think a lot of the trainers are just happy to be there and to meet people, and it's not as dead as you think.
D-Mob happy.
Yeah, and Tremor is such a tight little track that, like, John Ryan lost a horse in the first race, who was not only was fatally injured, but was probably going to win at the second last. I think I'd be fairly confident she'd have won. And in the second race, he ends up winning it with a 5-1 chance, and straight away I could hear someone in the background, come on, go on, well done, John. Just because that's the racing game. As Sean mentioned, the ups and downs, like Jack Kennedy I think he's broken his leg 3 or 4 times already. And I was talking about this with Keith Donoghue yesterday. Keith Donoghue has gone from practically retiring because he couldn't do any weights to now being able to do weights that would have been incomprehensible not that long ago, because he's gotten into a really good fitness regime during lockdown, just running a lot. So racing's just a crazy game for ups and downs.
Yeah. So this week we have another €100 to try and nudge the fund over £2,000. With the launch of the new Tote.ie website, wagering on the Tote.com is set to cease this Monday the 17th. Tote would like to ask all customers to visit the tote.com/change to find out what this means for your existing accounts. So where are we looking?
Interesting time for the Tote, obviously, and very progressive changes made of late for the pool. I'm going to, the guy I just mentioned there, Keith Donoghue, is going to ride my selection in the 305. Interesting contender, this Desi Deschamps, who was with Colin McBratney. Colin McBratney's won the Galway hurdle with Galway Plate with Ballyholland probably 14, 15 years ago. But he's gone to Gordon Elliott and just might be able to progress. Colin would have a 5% strike rate with his hurdlers, and Gordon might be able to eke out a bit of improvement. He's had a bit of time with him. And Keith Donoghue doing the 11.5 comfortably, 11 stone 5. He had two rides today, Tremor. Both were actually declared non-runners, so he's not going down, so he has the day off. But Keith is going to ride that in the 305. Really interesting contender. Obviously, you want to see the bit of market confidence behind him, but should also give a nod to mention Josephina, who was my selection 2 weeks ago and was a bit unlucky, runs in the 4:15. And that's the end of the Tremor Festival, which it's...
You love Josephine, that's the one you backed last year in Kilbeggan.
Yes, around this time last year, but her trainer's in very good form, actually. I thought it was great to see Tony Mullins have that big double in Galway. Really good filly in Princess Zoe. And yeah, she'd have definitely a good chance in that race.
When are these races?
That's on Sunday in Tremor, and
the one you've tipped up is
Sunday. Sorry, and excuse me, I'm actually struggling with the days here. I think it is Sunday. Yes, and they're racing there tomorrow, and Dundalk as well is back tomorrow. Interesting conversation with Aido McGuinness about Dundalk yesterday, because doing a little bit of work for HRI just to promote Champions Weekend, so I visited Donegal O'Brien and Aido McGuinness this week, and Aido was just talking about the new surface at Dundalk. It's quite different because it just takes time, and initially it's going to suit horses more coming from behind than it will over time, because the surface will get harder as it beds in. So it's a little bit trickier for punters to kind of... if you're backing a horse at Dundalk tomorrow, I'd have a look at recent races there just to see what it's like. It's not quite like what it was like before they relayed the track.
We did 300 to 1 winner this week.
Luke Homer, I mean, I mentioned this last night. Luke Homer is essentially Galway United's benefactor in League of Ireland terms. What Luke and Brian Comer have done for Galway United is unbelievable. In fact, the stand is now named after the Comer brothers. They came from humble beginnings in Glenamaddy. But yesterday for Galway United was... You'll never get a day like this, because Johnny Glenn, the absolute club legend of Galway United, 91 cup final hero, gets the goal, has been a kind of a club coach / youth development for the last few years. It transpires on Wednesday night that his daughter and her cousin have gone missing paddleboarding. And obviously, everyone who's anything to do with Galway United has heard about this by maybe noon yesterday, at which point, let's be quite frank here, you're expecting that this is going to be bad news.
Well, he said that himself. We had him on a little bit
earlier.
Yeah,
I saw the transcript of the interview, and Johnny's honestly as nice a guy as you will meet in the game. They say nice guys don't win. Johnny was a brilliant coach in my view. He brought through really good players like Hooban, Gaffney, Conor O'Malley, and Ryan Manning may even have played under him, who's now linked with the move to... But anyway, to make a long story short, I would say the odds of the two girls coming back alive were probably bigger than the 300 to 1 Luke Comer winner yesterday, the biggest price winner ever. First time out, beats a Jim Bulger trained odds on shot on the line. And fair play to Luke. Luke's invested an awful lot of money in racing. To my mind, he should be getting a better return. I think over time he might. He's a real workaholic. And 300 to 1, it was really the talk of racing yesterday. Everyone was talking about it. In fact, my cousin from America texted me to see if I backed it, which I don't... I think that was one of those rhetorical questions that didn't really need an answer. But 300 to 1 shots to win, seemingly.
Once in a lifetime. Right. Good stuff, Johnny.
How do you feel if you back the favourite, though?
I mean...
You're miles clear at third. You're done by... Luke doesn't have many winners. 300 to 1. If... Yeah, you'd feel a little bit gypped.
Look. Sure, look. I mean, all's well that ends well. That was a great day for Galway United.
It was... I have to say, in my 37 years, it was one of the best news stories I've ever heard, because it was so improbable, and you know, just the whole background behind it, and just the whole improbability. It was a movie. It was literally... This was a movie. And I would pay to watch two Irish actresses play these two girls. They should actually be looking for the job.
That's a good idea
already, because it's
scripted up,
and it could be a...
Gotta stop giving these ideas away on air, Johnny.
Could be a strange promotion for Irish tourism as well, because that is a beautiful part of the world. And then you go from like the Cliffs of Moher, it features in the movie, as does the Aran Islands, as does Barna and Furbo and Galway, as does Johnny Glynn. What more do you want?
Brad Pitt is now about the right age to play Johnny Glynn as well.
About the right age, but yeah, other aspects maybe. I would say maybe more like an Aidan Gillen, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, well, the accent wouldn't work.
Aidan Gillen, he did the Mean Charlie.
Okay. Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. We'll see you next week. Best of luck.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.